Hi, Sumitra. This is Shobha. We've been colleagues for a while now, but just a short intro. I work in the School of Business at IFMR GSB. I teach in the area of strategy and have been doing it for decades. So, a veteran. Over to you.
Lovely. Um, Hi, everybody, and hi, Shobha. So, I'm Sumitra. I teach in the Humanities division at Kriya as well as in the Literature and Arts division. So, I am an ethnomusicologist by training. And so, I teach in the social studies program and the arts program at Kriya. Looking forward to our conversation today, Shobha.
Absolutely. So, we officially come from very different worlds. You from arts and I from management. And, one question is what's at the intersection? And I have a little issue with that question because it sounds like arts and management are very different, and therefore there has to be an intersection. So as I was thinking arts is for the novice about creativity, and that needs management in terms of you need to manage the creativity so you can communicate and grow because you have an audience and you would like to reach a bigger audience, be more appreciated. On the flip side, for management to communicate and grow, you want to communicate to people in an organization, you want the organization to offer better products, we need creativity. So it's really not two different worlds. It's siloed as two different worlds, but there is really a lot of commonality between the two worlds.
Shobha, you speak to something that is really has been part of our consciousness at Kriya for the last 3 or 4 years. We teach this course called Creative Expression. It so happens that everybody in the arts teaches it. It doesn't have to be that way, and we're always looking for people to teach it. But sort of the foundational idea of that course is really what you explicated just now. That create the habits of the creative mind, the habits of the creative body, the way we integrate mind, body, emotion, sensation, consciousness, right? These are things that come together in pretty much every domain that we work on. Sometimes, as artists, we may tend to acknowledge certain aspects of this more. In the sciences, you may tend to think of yourself more along one axis or the other, and in management maybe you have to draw on both these. But I think more and more we are coming to recognize that um, you know the practices of engaging with our creative selves, either habitually or interactively, that we really draw on such different domains and these are brought together, and that is sort of fundamental to creativity. And I think whether from the arts or from management, we probably come to this with somewhat sort of similar ideas, if not techniques.
So, I mean, creativity is a core part of the arts. Um, you are an artist. I don't claim to be an artist, but I claim to be an academic. So I'm going to just, share with you what I think of academics, and then I would be interested to know about you, the artist and the academic coming together, because you can be an artist without being an academic and vice versa. So academia for me, it's really my identity. I really view myself as an academic, not an Indian, not a woman. Really, for me, I'm an academic. So, which makes me wonder what I was before I became an academic. That's a whole different story. And the reason that is so close to my heart is it really allows me to explore the things that I know more, and even try to explore the things that I don't know. And often the don't know comes in my interaction in the classroom, because young people know a lot of things that I don't know. It's sometimes in the corridor, especially now in this university where the corridor is full of people with different expertise. And also, it doesn't end with office hours. So people ask me, "Are you still working?" And I'm like, "Yes," and "No." So for me, the academic career is really a very fulfilling career because I get to pick and choose the different things. But a lot of it is because of the different people that I have around me. No me's are there. There are different people. So, for you, how is it the artist and academic coming together?
No, that's a very interesting question, Shobha. Uh, I've had a career that sort of made so many shifts in my life that probably make most sense at a university like Kriya. The short of it is that I started life trying to become a theoretical physicist, and then I shifted to the computer world where I stayed for 16 years. So I really was in the IT field for 16 years. I had been learning music, and the artist in me expresses it this way. My sort of shift into academia happened following a song. So it was a beautiful Drupad I learned from the Maharajas of Betia, composed by them. And following that song is how I sort of decided that I will do my PhD in music. And then I made a transition in 2007, and there I've stayed ever since. So, in some sense, I guess, and then I had a stint working at an NGO on human rights and solid waste management in the social sciences and humanities sector. So, there's been this kind of a I've not been an academic all my life, but I've been in the research arena and arts also. I mean, see, I don't perform, but I've been a musician for a really long time. I'm a student, and maybe that's what makes me feel closest at home in academia. That I'm always thinking about things, always thinking more and more about things, churning, whether it's music or anything else. That act of churning rarely stops, and it spills over, much like what you say. I wanted to introduce a couple of small ideas. Harking back to this idea of arts and management, and especially because we are talking about women's International Women's Day on March 8th, I was just thinking to myself, the pandemic has brought home and work uh, it's co-located them. And I was thinking to myself how especially women artists, from traditional communities, hereditary communities, as well, in the 20th century, middle class women taking to the arts, how much they've had to actually manage their time. And I am amazed at how they've managed to serve the demands of very, very different roles. And today, when I'm sitting at home and sometimes it's hard. And I'm just thinking to myself, these women artists, they've managed to, they've had to to manage not only their time, it is the demands made on them as persons. So that's one thing I wondered what you thought about that, Shobha. I mean, the analogy in some sense of the lives women lead in different spaces, and what that brings to us in the academia today, especially in the pandemic moment.
See, the artist, sort of juggling different roles in the physical space of home, when, the studio is no longer available in that sense, the luxury is not there of turning away from the family. I wouldn't know that much about it, but for me, it's the managerial role that the woman does. And after the pandemic, it's been called the Great Resignation. Many people have chosen not to come back because they prefer working from home, etc. But apparently, it's not equal. More women have resigned than men, And I think there's a story there because women have realized that now, if they go back to the workplace, all the things they have just adapted, will fall astray. All the things that they realize that they need to be there or they were called upon, the onus is on them now to continue that new role. Whereas apparently it seems that men are not as affected by this change in role that they had to adapt to because they probably were able to partition it still. And they can continue the partitioning by physically being away. By women coming back home, there are changes in expectations because now it is this person can juggle everything. She can turn from a Zoom screen to something else at home, or And so I think the great resignation is greater for the women now, post pandemic. So we will have even lesser women in the workforce when the workspace is physically away, which would be such a tragedy.
Yeah, I think that's a real concern. And uh, okay, in the arts it's one kind of thing, but especially as women academics, I mean, we've known that women, especially of childbearing age, if they choose to have children, as it is, there is so much pressure. And it's not only women of childbearing age. I mean, not only women scientists or women academics, anybody who goes to work, um, whether you're at an interview, whether people think that okay, she's going to go away on long leave, there is that whole pressure that women anyway have to face. And then the whole caregiving aspect comes in.
Yes. Yes.
And employers are extremely aware
Yes. Yes.
that women are in this spot. And therefore, I think I agree with you there. I wonder what it is that we can do to
Mm-hmm.
bring women back into the workplace, and
Workforce.
bring anyone who has had to sort of juggle home and world or home and work. um, the pandemic has to have taught us something about to take away.
When we talk about gender inequality, we talk about the visible signs first. So, count the number of women compared to the number of men, and population wise, it should be approximately equal. So, there are really sad statistics. The top 500 Fortune companies in the US, 8% CEOs are women. Eight, 92% are men. So that's a stark contrast. You bring it closer to home, National Stock Exchange, top 500 companies, 5% of the top CEOs are women. So it's an even smaller number. But sadder than that, recently there was an IMA study that said it's not just the numbers and the ratios of women, there's a gender pay gap increases as you go up. It's like, how much more. So you deign to take a few women up the ladder, but you don't pay them proportionately to their skill and their knowledge base, and the gap widens as you go up. So yes, you can jump at that and say not enough CEOs, not enough salary being paid, but I think you have to keep rolling it back. It's not there. It's in the selection process, it's in the recruitment process, it's in the education process, even right up to preschool. you know there's a study that Professor Jyoti of GSB
Mm-hmm.
recently concluded with Sona Mitra of iWage, that says that a very famous government scheme, which is about women's children, to have them live and also have them study. If you do at the district level, you find that the enrollment went up, but they actually studied at the child level, and the learning outcomes haven't improved. So notionally, enrollment was done because the scheme was there, but the learning hasn't improved. People haven't paid attention to the learning a girl child does because she's juggling many things at home. So it's so deep. That your question of what can we do is really worrying. We can come up with quick fixes here and there, but for example, GSB, we have one third, however much we try, maximum 33% will be women students, not more, 30 to 33. SIS, I understand there are many more women students. So what happens between undergraduate and postgraduate? Something goes off. We are not able to keep up the excitement of education equally for women and men. And it's a scary thought that we talk about it, but we are not able to go deep in to change metrics, incentives, motivation. So from the pandemic, maybe accessibility can change with the pandemic. So from homes we can make things available. So even if a person can't leave home, let's make things accessible right there at home, which then leads to the digital access, which again is an issue. So it's like, how do you get out of this chakravyuh? Sometime we have to emerge to do something.
No, I think I hear you really well, because I mean, what you're seeming to suggest, therefore, is one of the big challenges is has been really for women to leave home from. No, I'm taking a standard job, not just one that runs all the time. say from 8:30 in the morning until 6:30 or 7 at night, depending on where they live. So it's almost like a 12-hour period when you need to be away from home.
Yes.
It's usually much more of a challenge for a woman to do that simply because of gender roles.
Yes.
Now, I'm not saying this is inevitably the case. You will find exceptions,
Absolutely.
but the issue of care
Yes.
and the pandemic has brought that home sharply. Whether it is deciding who is able to use the internet connection, and I'm
Mhm.
wondering now whether the girl child is actually at the
True.
bottom of that heap,
Yes.
and and if there's something to be done, maybe for somebody who's ill at home or an elder at home or even for a child at home, who's to leave their desk. And there I think gender roles, they there is a lot of pressure there.
There is. Last year, a couple of organizations here had invited me for Women's Day to talk. And, you can say theoretical things. And usually it ends with what can we do? And it's a really, relevant question because we shouldn't talk and forget about it. So, I had come up with a very simplistic mnemonic to convey to the people in the factory floor some things that we can do on a daily basis. And I just took the words three. And I said, support the people who are around you, the family members who are women, the community members, to give them confidence, that they can do it. Also, talk about the people and what they have faced, the hardships to get where they are, so that the stories are never hidden away. Raise awareness about this issue at every forum you can so that people get talking about it. Educate yourself and others about knowledge and skills required, because I think one of the things some people take away is, so we hire people who are not qualified. No, absolutely not. But the thing is, they need to know about the opportunities to be able to avail of them. They should not have a handicap just because they don't know. So get them to know about opportunities and avail of them. And finally, I think the empowering. You really need to put power back in the hands of women, so that when somebody says, there's somebody who's fallen down, and everybody turns to the woman of the house. No, she should be able to say, or others should be able to say, it doesn't have to be her. Someone else get up and do it.
Yes.
So the empowering, and I think it's a mindset. But each of us at every forum, if we raise this, we also take the steps. If we have sisters and brothers, to treat them equally, sons and daughters, we all can, do our little bit to get to the gender equality. It won't happen overnight. It may not, it definitely won't happen in my lifetime. But little bit from the 5% towards the 50%, it's a wide gap. Let's get there, somewhere to 10%, maybe.
Yes, and I think here is where uh, your access also counts a great
Yes.
deal. I can imagine, even in maybe, if not in my lifetime as an academic, maybe sometime around that space, because students are much more conscious of bringing issues of um, categories into the workplace, whether it's gender, whether it's sexuality. It's much more talked about, at least, even if you have not done anything yet. In you know, in our schools, in our colleges, at our workplaces. But I don't know if that would be true if I left the upper middle class institution, if we left the metro. How much of these conversations are can happen, and maybe they need to happen differently, but do they happen? I'm not even sure if they happen. So yes, I think we definitely have to commit to working towards this. There's something that in the context of this
Yes.
conversation, and something I've been thinking about a great deal, is what using the category of woman somewhat, more as a set of qualities
Mhm.
necessarily, rather than a biological category for this. I was wondering what one could do to maybe feminize the workplace in certain ways.
Yes.
And I was thinking about care.
Mhm.
Now, whether you sign on or not, the idea of care is something that we associate a great deal. Yes, protection maybe, uh, you know, you tend to take it towards masculinity, towards paternity. I don't know, but
Right.
in terms of care, definitely it's a quality that we've traditionally associated with the feminine, with women. And I was really thinking about how we want to bring that into the classroom, in how we care for each other, how we make place in the classroom for difference, for acknowledging that people don't come from the same place, people don't face the same challenges. I think that there is a huge opportunity, really. And I again come back to the pandemic. We've all not been affected equally. Everybody's had, okay, there may have been tragedies in every family. Everybody might have been impacted, but there has been disproportionate
Absolutely.
impact in certain spaces. And even in your own classroom, mental health is another huge issue.
Yes.
So in a classroom, different class backgrounds, caste backgrounds, linguistic backgrounds, um, you come in, if you're not speaking English in the modern academy, especially in an institute like Kriya, you already have, you are faced with challenges. How do we bring an ethics of care into managing this better, into enabling what these students, workers, or colleagues can bring to a workplace? I don't believe that, that the more sort of standard systems of thinking about categories, giving quotas, they break down somewhere.
Yes.
But I think that if we really bring more attention to the concept of care, I don't know, I think it's something that maybe in the post-pandemic moment, especially as women, maybe we can bring something in to think about, to work with.
You're thinking not just towards the community, but towards each other.
Yes, in the way we even deal with our classrooms.
No, if we could, really, even if it is baby steps, it would make a difference. It would make a difference. But yeah, I think that's a sort of novel way of thinking, and only a creative mind could think about it.
It's also a lot of conferences on care. You know how it is, Shobha.
Okay.
When we are academics, right? These things, like, anyway, most of us, this is the sort of the interactive aspect of creativity. Somebody is doing something and ping, there's some connection made. So I think I was looking at something that's one of our colleagues sent out on care, and I was thinking to myself, it's also the things we face in the classroom every day.
Yes. True.
You can't respond the same way to every situation.
No, you can't. And and I think that's an advantage of being today's world. We do hear about many alternatives and experiments happening. And we have the luxury in a university that's relatively new that, we haven't got straitjacketed yet, so we can experiment. In about 50 years' time, Kriya would be set in its ways, but not yet. So, this is the time, seriously, if you have some particular concept you're thinking of, give it a try, and GSB could join the efforts, and we could try something in a small way, and see if it
equally. I think many of you are out on the field, and I think the number of the studies that are done in our research centers as well as in GSP, I think we really should connect. Because one of the issues is the undergraduate program, not just during the pandemic, but any other time, it doesn't. We want the world inside Kriya and Kriya in the world, but the curriculum doesn't always give room for it. But if we collaborate, I think, issues of digital inclusion, thinking about women outside, the little bit of a fishbowl that we all live in, I think that we could really collaborate to do that. All of you had a lot of richness to bring, and I think we must really get together.
Agreed. Absolutely.
We'll look forward to the next year, and since we've been given the sort of opportunity to talk to each other today in a freewheeling way, let's go away with some ideas to think about.
Build bridges.
Build bridges.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sumitra.
Thank you, Shobha.
Thank you.
Wonderful talking.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.